Anyway, we're about to start.
Oh.
Yay, it's 8 o'clock.
Yay.
Well, welcome to the deep end.
Hello.
I'm your host, Alex Muller. I do all my own stunts. I'm here tonight with Makena.
Hello, thanks for having me.
We were just sort of sat here in the studio trying to make sure that everything works, because the last 2 weeks there's been myriad technical difficulties, and it's not a nice evening. It is frosty, and I do not want to have to either do what was done 2 weeks ago, where we have to do this over Discord and I have to run all the way back to my flat, or do what was done last week, where I record it through the voice notes app on my phone. Which is normal, and the voice notes
innovation, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, the voice notes app on my phone is exclusively used to make sure to record noises that happen in my flat in the middle of the night. back in Hong Kong, either like my air conditioner is like dripping, or I'm like, also for some reason, this is just a minor gripe, right? But for some reason now, the garbage truck has decided to start coming by at 2 a.m.
Typical.
Was just like, normally it used
This is back in Hong Kong?
Yeah, it used to come by at 7, which, to be fair, for me also sucked, because that would be exactly when I'm walking up my street to go to my bus stop to get to school. So every morning, I would walk right past the garbage truck, the back of which is still open, because obviously they're putting garbage into it. And then I would, smell horrible, But yeah, and to answer the question that McKenna had before the show, the University of Sussex, and you guys at home can all search this yourself if you go to justice.gov/Epstein, that is EPS.
This is not a paid ad.
This is not a paid ad. Shout out to my sponsors in Lockheed Martin for all your heat-seeking missile needs, The University of Sussex shows up 4 times in the Epstein files. Obviously that's not saying that the university's done anything wrong.
Yeah.
It is unfortunate because by virtue of the financier Jeff Epstein having been so, I guess, I want to say,
choose your words wisely.
Is magnanimous? No, not magnanimous. That's the opposite of what he is. Sort of so ubiquitous in the New York sort of rich people scene.
Shout out New York.
Shout out, go uptown to Harlem, tell him that I sent you.
Spent a lot of time in Harlem growing up.
And we will get to that later, but it's a shame because Jeff Epstein was so intertwined with all these different social circles. Basically, any famous person in America ends up showing up in the files at some point. I occasionally listen to the podcast of one David Sampson, former director of baseball operations of the he was the general manager of the Miami Marlins, a horrible baseball team, and he was not great at his job, but he shows up in the files, and now he's going on other people's podcasts, and they're talking about how, you show up in the files. He shows up in the files because he was a sponsor of a particular charity, where an email was sent to basically anyone with money saying, hey, this charity, we're going to have a dinner. If you would like, we're going to have a dinner to try and raise money. And he shows up in the emails listed as a contributor, And this charity is called Heroes, Heart and Hope.
I've heard of this.
Which I've never heard of. What do you know about these people?
I don't know, it just sounds very familiar.
Heroes, Heart and Hope. Of course, when I typing it in, one of the autofill results has to do with Epstein.
Of course.
Oh no! It was a gala from the Challenged Athletes Foundation, right? That seems sort of like the Special Olympics, I imagine, right? But that sounds like a good cause. But now these people are sort of being dragged through the mud because they had the gall to ask a rich dude for money. Obviously there are certain times when rich people in their charities, deserve some criticism. Are you familiar with the famous debacle with Oprah Winfrey and The Rock with Hawaii? There was, I believe, maybe wildfires in Maui or something, and they created something called the Maui Relief Fund, and they each pledged like a little bit of money, saying like, we're going to donate like a couple of $1 million each, or like maybe it was even like a few $100,000 total.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to donate, and we're giving you the link so that all of you can donate at home. And people looked at their net worths and their yearly incomes and found out that they pledged like 0.5% of their yearly income.
Yeah.
Which is like, and still, it was like still like maybe $1 million or two, which is still a significant amount of money. But on the relative scale.
On a relatively speaking, absolutely.
Yeah. But as you mentioned earlier, you spent some time going up in New York.
Yes.
You are a very international man.
Yes.
More international than myself in terms of places that you've lived. I've lived in I've lived all my life in Hong Kong in the same building. I just moved between the floors at different periods of time. And then I have never lived outside, and then in the UK I've never lived outside of the university campus for longer than like a month. But as I understand, I can name, I believe, at least 4 places that you've lived.
Yeah. A lot of those when I was like a lot younger, so I don't really remember much, but...
So why don't you give us, to introduce yourself to the millions of people who've tuned in, as is always the case here, to who you are, why you are an interesting person, and give us some of your life story.
Okay, well, I don't know if I'm that interesting in the circles that I grew up in, but I was born in the UK. My mother worked for Department for International Development, DFID, which is no longer a thing, apparently. But because of that, I was shipped all over the world. She was posted in Rwanda, Uganda, Zimbabwe, Kenya, and so spent a lot of time there. It's just pretty much all before I turned 11-ish. Then when I turned 11, my mom got a job at UNICEF in New York, so she was posted in New York. We all came with her. Grew up there pretty much. Became an adult there, if you want to call it that. And then, came back to the UK in around 2020. I was in New York during COVID. That was interesting.
Really? I understand COVID in New York, you had, if you snitched on your neighbour, you were given French fries. That was, I believe there was a sort of botched sort of campaign where the mayor of New York was trying to... The mayor, Garcetti, encouraged people to report businesses violating stay-at-home orders, and he said in a particular clip, snitches get rewards, as he takes a bite out of, as he very awkwardly, might I add, takes a bite out of some French fries. But continue.
I had no idea about that. I mean, when I lived in New York, me and my 18-year-old self, none of our friends really cared about restrictions or whatever. We abided them as much as we could. The trick is basically just not to go out during the day, because then you get caught. Yeah. So we'd all go out, meet up at like 6 a.m, random parks, different subway routes from across the city. Just,
Nice. Speaking of the New York subway, I've been sort of a notorious critic of it. Right?
No.
And look, I'm big on I love public transportation. More than the average person. I think it's very important to invest in. But a lot of people I know who also like public transportation disagree with my noted opinion that the New York subway sucks.
I think it's amazing. I think it's great.
Like, okay, why don't you tell us, why do you think the New York subway is great?
I just think it's convenient. Obviously, I'm pretty loyal to New York, but I spent a few months in Paris, a few months in London. I'd say the New York City subway trumps both of their subway systems. But I mean, yes, it's true. It's dirty. There are rats, but you find a subway station literally every block, pretty much. So it's convenient.
But this is a subway station every block. This is in Manhattan.
This is true. This is very true. I grew up in Manhattan.
Now, from what I've seen, let's Google the New York City subway, and this is a particular, and you can tell how passionate I am about public transit by the fact that I even know that this particular type of stat is a thing. New York City subway fare box recovery ratio. Where
What is that?
So the fare box recovery ratio measures according to as much as I am reading what the Google AI overview says, I hate that every time I Google something now,
I agree.
it gives me an AI overview.
I agree.
But so I'm going to boycott it. I'm going to explain it in my own words. The fare box recovery ratio is the percentage of a particular transit system of a particular transit scheme's operating expenses that are covered by passenger fares.
Okay.
So in New York City, at least according to the AI overview,
I'm imagining it's pretty low.
it is it's described as strong, but it's only 70%.
Okay, it's higher than I thought. I definitely went through a period of about 2 to 3 years where I didn't pay for the subway or buses once.
That's a big thing I've seen with the New York subway, at least.
Oh yeah.
Fare evasion.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on all the money that's being poured in now to try and make more? Well, to try and make it more not profitable, because that's not the point of public transit, but at least what's the word here? Sustainable, revenue-wise.
I mean, I respect it. So as an adult now, I get why they're doing it. Growing up, it was pretty much almost a trend. You're kind of seen as a coward if you weren't hopping the turnstiles rather. But I don't know. It's a crucial part of New York City's income, I guess. Everyone takes the subway, everyone takes the buses, so I get why they're doing it, and it had to be done eventually. I think it's better than they've tried in the past raising the prices. Well, that just caused riots, pretty much.
Yeah, but I guess that having so much fare evasion, and also because, from what I'm aware, the MTA, the governing body of the New York City subway system, is run, or at least its budget comes from state-level government, based in Albany, and not from the mayor's office.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it still then? Doesn't fare evasion? Doesn't that become a bit of a never-ending cycle then?
Oh, for sure.
Fare evasion into lost revenues, into raising fares, into fare evasion.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it seems a little bit. I'm looking at the Wikipedia article for fare box recovery ratios, and New York is. It's some of the different things. Okay, well, the New York Transit Authority as a whole, which is including, I guess, every single part of.
Yep, that's the buses, MTA buses, subway, even the ferries, some of them.
Yeah, that is as a whole, it's at 24.4% of the revenue is made back by fares. Compared to some of the other cities in North America on this list. Like the lowest one is what is the NYC dot? Whoa.
NYC Department of Transportation.
What do they do?
Who knows? I'm pretty sure they're just like
that's the Staten Island ferry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
They only make back 0.93%. And then Montgomery County in Maryland and also in Montgomery County.
Yep, before I came to Sussex.
Their buses, their local bus system, how much of revenue do you think those guys are making back? As someone who lived there, and I imagine you might have taken the bus once or twice. You never took a bus?
No, so I lived in, after I graduated high school, my family moved to Washington, and I drove everywhere.
Oh, okay.
So I live in Washington, I had to drive out to Montgomery.
Well, I guess that explains part of this number, 3%.
Yeah.
They only make back 3% of the money they. Meanwhile, right? If I look, it's crazy. I look at this thing, and they've got the different sections divided by continent, right? I look at Europe.
Yeah.
The only transit network that makes 100% is the London Underground.
Yeah, that tracks.
They make 130%.
Okay.
And then looking at the London Overground and Docklands Light Railway, they make 94%. So surely you can afford to sort of lower the prices of the London Underground a bit, right?
Yeah, see, that makes sense. See, in New York, I feel like the bottom line is if if no one was fare evading, everyone was paying the fares, then they wouldn't raise the prices.
Yeah, but like the London Underground is kind of expensive.
I agree.
So like, why do they need to be making 130% of their expenditure? And that, like for example, in Hong Kong, and I don't appreciate how some of the prices have been raised lately. The MTR, Mass Transit Railway, which is in my opinion the greatest, well, at least from the ones that I've been on. Right, I can't talk about Singapore. I can't talk about Paris.
Yep.
But from the subway systems that I've been on, the MTR is the best. The Hong Kong subway system. They make 107%.
Okay.
So clearly, they're doing just about what they have to.
Yeah.
It's crazy though on this list. There are a bunch of things like Japan Central Rail, Yokohama Municipal Subway, and the Sapporo Municipal Subway, the Osaka Metro, and the Tokyo Subway, which I hate as well, even though everybody else loves it. I hate the Tokyo Subway is too many winding paths.
Okay.
Too many small tunnels to get to your platform. Once you get to your platform, it's not clean, not in the sense that it's dirty, but in the sense that it is that the platform design is quite noisy. It's not how you say it's not visually. I prefer my subways to be sort of visually simple.
Yep.
Like, not in terms of, obviously you can have decorations and beauty to it, right? Like some of the photos I've seen from the Moscow Metro, incredible.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, the Pyongyang metro system, which is bucket list. I really want to go to North Korea at some point. But it's visually simple to navigate. Like, you look down a hallway and you know exactly where you need to go. But you've still got all these like sort of marble pillars and these statues and everything, which was surprising considering these was like built in Soviet times. Right?
Yeah.
But it's very design-wise in Japan. It's not beautiful at all, but it's also not easy to navigate. And then it's not easy to buy tickets. It's not easy to figure out where to even go to get your train. It's just not fun.
Yeah, no, that's what I hate the most about like certain public transport systems. It's just, it's
I mean, we don't have a metro here in Brighton.
Yeah.
Because the UK doesn't really build metro systems that much. I believe that Leeds is the largest city in Europe without a subway system.
Really?
Because I know that London obviously has one. I know that Newcastle has one, and you can tell us a bit about that later, I do believe. But yeah, public transport in the UK is in a sorry state. But actually, let's get onto this Newcastle business, because right, you have a British passport, I believe.
Yes.
Even though you sound American.
Yeah.
Which I know I imagine you get that a lot, and
I get that a lot.
It's probably very rich coming from me, considering I sound like I belong on Downton Abbey, but I am in the UK not a tourist visa. That would be fraud. On a student, I'm in the UK on a student visa.
Yeah.
Right. Which is why when I go to a bar, I can use a British. It's interesting. I was at a bar last night, and they ID'd me to get in, and I showed them my BRP, biometric residence permit, which is sort of not really an ID card, but more the sort of proof of legal residence.
Yeah.
Right? Although now it's shifted online, so both my BRPs have officially expired, right? Which is why I got kicked out of Wetherspoons that one time. But it's very interesting. I started to notice recently that when I'm being ID'd at a bar, and the bartender or the bouncer is of foreign descent, they seem to respect me when I present them with a BRP, because it's like, oh, I know the struggle that these things fucking suck, But yeah, so you have a British passport.
Yep.
Even though you sound American.
Yep.
You're probably one of the more American people I've ever met.
Probably.
But you have come back to England.
England.
Come on, England. Score some fucking goals. For university.
Yes.
And this is not the first time that you've come back to England for university.
No. So I was, I graduated high school in New York 2020. Obviously COVID and everything. I went off to Newcastle University for first year right after high school. There's a little bit of not really liking Newcastle myself, and also COVID kind of ruining everything, so I really didn't explore the city. I didn't take the subway once in Newcastle. I can't remember if it was shut down or not. But I just decided, I would rather wait until the whole pandemic was over to go back to school. So I went back to the States for a few years, worked, ice hockey coaching, stuff like that. And, obviously you get to a point where you're like, all right, I got to go get my undergrad done. So that's why I came back here.
Interesting. So what was it that you studied that first time around when you went to Newcastle?
International relations, same thing I'm doing now.
Right. And how are you finding that?
It's pretty good. I mean,
there was a slight bit of hesitation in your voice. Was that it? What was that?
Oh, so I don't know if any of the listeners here know what IB is, International Baccalaureate.
Oh my God, you've just given me. I believe that at least, if you include me, at minimum 3 people who have been on the show
have done the IB.
Have done the IB.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
It's not fun, but global politics was my best class, and when I was picking my university courses, they said, "Oh, well, choose your best class that you're most passionate about." I was like, "All right, I might as well just do this then." But I feel like, especially in the States, like I said earlier, I did a little bit of school at Montgomery Community College before I came here to Sussex. I feel like in the States, when you're doing international relations, it's a lot more analytical and a lot more, I guess, pragmatic.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's a lot of theory, a lot of kind of existential kind of paradigms and whatnot. And it's not bad. It took some getting used to.
Yeah, that was the main grade that I had. So I studied when I first came here. I did a year, hence me having to get a second student visa.
Yeah.
I originally did a year of my plan was to do history and international relations for 3 years, and then do a conversion course to law.
Yeah.
So half my course was IR, and it was. I agree that it was less talking about international relations and talking about how you should talk about international relations.
Exactly. Yeah, that's, you put it very well there.
Like, I remember there was an entire module which was talking about how the study of international relations is inherently based in colonial theory, because at the time of the creation of the study, Africa and Asia and Oceania weren't sort of free to govern themselves.
Yeah.
But that sounds, and I was obviously studying history as well, right? So it's not like I'm against studying history, but
it's not necessarily what you come in to study thinking, I'm going to study internationally. Like, for me, it was like,
I chose to study history and international relations, not history of international relations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do find I feel like it's only really been this past, second semester, second year, we're finally talking about some actual kind of stuff that's going on in the world that's more contemporary.
Yeah.
The entirety of first year was just like history of capitalism, the history of the discipline. I mean, the first lecture I walked into, they said, "Oh, well, here's the history of IR, and here's the non-history of IR." And the majority of my classes were focused on this non-history of IR.
I'm getting PTSD now.
And it's like, it's interesting, and it's some good takes and whatnot, but it frustrated me a lot that first year, because I was like, no, I want to come. I'm here to study because I want to study war, security studies, stuff like that. Yeah.
Like stuff like, even some of the stuff in the news lately, that's a gold mine.
Yeah.
It would be like, I would have, like, if I was still doing international relations, I would love, with the Venezuela situation, I would love to know what would be going on, for example, at, let's say, the Chinese embassy in Washington. Or, like, famously, at the time, the day of Maduro's capture and transportation to New York, where he ended up in the same prison as, I think, Diddy and
everyone, all the celebs.
Arkham Asylum, practically.
Yeah, pretty much.
But at the time, he had just that morning met a trade delegation from China.
Yeah.
And they were staying at his presidential suite or in the Chinese embassy or something like that. And they were waiting on news as to whether or not there would be more meetings in the coming days.
Yep.
But it just sort of, and then I would love to know what happens when Xi Jinping gets that phone call.
Yep.
Firstly, that Venezuela has been, I guess, sort of been grenaded, right? And that nobody knows what's going to happen with the government now.
Yeah.
but also what happens when he then realizes, oh wait, I've got my guys over there.
Yeah.
I would have loved to know. I would have loved to learn stuff like that.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Like, sort of, and it's a historical scenario, but it's still a scenario. Something like what happened. What would have been going on behind the scenes with the American embassy in Iran, famously.
Yeah.
Or like just how these countries interact.
Yeah.
And how they.
Yeah.
Do all of the things that they do behind the scenes that aren't in press conferences.
That's the stuff that interests me for the most part, and it's little talked about in IR. But you know, I mean, I do get it. They're setting up the foundations for you to be able to talk about the stuff at the master's level, stuff like that.
Yeah. Are you planning on doing a master's?
Ideally, I guess. I mean, shit. Sorry.
Sorry, I've sworn a couple times.
Well, I mean, shit. I feel like today's day and age, you know. I mean, I read something the other day that said undergrad is basically the same as having a high school diploma these days.
Yeah, that's something that I've been quite critical of, is the sort of... Let me Google if this is a word.
Especially in a degree like international relations. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's a Mickey Mouse degree. And I mean, I know that I could, you know, a little bit of nepotism here, but obviously, like, my mom's worked for the UN, stuff like that. I've got lots of connections to those type of international organizations. So I know that I can always go in somewhere like that. But for a lot of people who don't know what they want to do, there's no clear, really clear path, you know?
Yeah. Okay, technically not a word, but it is a term which has been coined by a guy named Peter Maskell, and he just sounds like he has a PhD. Ubiquitification. The fact that, like, it was a big thing I remember in America with the Bush Jr. administration, where it's like, go to college, get a degree. If you do that, then you are guaranteed you're going to be able to get a job. Yeah. Nowadays, it feels like all of those promises that we were sold.
No, yeah, exactly.
And it feels like, and to use the phrase that you were trying to avoid earlier, Mickey Mouse degree, I meet a lot of people at this university, and I think, and I ask them, okay, well, what's your plan with that you're doing?
Yeah.
And they're like,
I don't really know.
A lot of people I know who study psychology.
Yeah.
For example, I had a guy on last week who studied psychology, and he had an actual idea. He was interested in psychology. He wanted to do it. But I've met people before who've done stuff like psychology or other things like that, and they're going to university for the sake of going to university.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these conversations surrounding student loans.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate to be in a situation in which I'm not having to pay back a student loan, but so I understand I'm sort of talking from an outside perspective here.
Yeah.
But I think as fucked as the system is,
yeah,
and it might sound harsh to say that, but it's
pretty fucked.
Genuinely, some of the like, I think you have to earn in the UK something like at least 6 or 7 figures, in order to be able to actually pay back the loan. Although fortunately in the UK there is a system by which at a certain age,
if you're not making a certain threshold,
at a certain age your loan is just written off.
Yeah.
Although it's not like you can just not pay it back. There is a certain minimum that you have to pay, provided you are employed. But in America, for example, people are drowning in debt their entire lives, and these are people who have gone to medical school. These are valuable people who've gotten valuable skills.
But I mean, the price, it's extortion in America. It's so expensive.
Yeah, like, but my point is, there should be some sort of student loan system, but less for the purposes of making money, which is what it appears to sort of be now, and more for the purposes of being a barrier to entry. There should the student loan system should be accessible, but it should be one of those things that you look at it and you think, with the degree that I'm doing, am I going to actually be able to get a job? If you're not going to be able to get a job with that degree, like, really? Is that something you need to be spending years of your life doing?
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it is. I know people now who even like the job market is just so screwed. But even the university job market, like I've tried to look for jobs in Brighton.
Huh.
It's screwed. But also people I know who came to this university thinking that they're going to do a placement year.
Yeah.
Can't find a placement, and now they've given up. Or people I know who at the start of the year were talking about like, oh yeah, I'm going to be getting a job right after this because I'm in my final year. are now talking about how they're probably going to be applying to do a master's. And that sort of transformation, but not really doing a master's for the sake of, oh yeah, I really need a master's, at least from what it sounded to me, but for the sake of, I get to push back having to enter this shitstorm of a market for you. I mean, what's your plan? What do you want to do in life after a master's degree? And what would be your plan for that? Would that be staying here? Would that be going somewhere else? Going to the States potentially?
It would probably be doing a master's in the UK. Simply, I mean, I'd love to do. There are a few schools in the US that I would love to do. I kind of always had this aspiration to work in intelligence services. So there's a school in Washington. I forget what it's called.
Makena Jack. Martini.
Not that far. I'd be more like the Carrie Matheson in Homeland type thing.
I haven't seen that show.
You gotta watch Homeland.
Would you be like Sandra Bullock? This is a weird pull, but Sandra Bullock in Bullet Train.
I don't know if I've seen it.
She's the one in the earpiece.
I don't think I've seen it.
Who's the one who Ralph Fiennes in the James Bond films?
Yeah.
Or before him, who was the Judi Dench in the James Bond films?
Yeah, no, that's exactly
less going in the field, more actually like the intelligence.
More
people.
like case officer kind of.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. The official intelligence officer is the official role on the SAS website. But.
Have you seen? This is a great film, which there's a certain line in it. There's a certain conversation in the film, which completely summed up the relationship between two particular countries, which I can't get into. But Charlie Wilson's War. Have you heard of this?
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it yet.
Tom Hanks, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Julia Roberts. Fantastic movie. But that one was very interesting. But so intelligence is your plan, and you want to be like sort of, what is this role that you've researched on the essay? Because obviously you would have to be unfortunately working for the British, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So that's also another kind of thing that makes me feel okay. Maybe I don't go down this line of work. But
do you try and then go into the same line of work as like your mother, working for an NGO, so that you can stay in America?
Perhaps it's either intelligence. I'd love to do basically anything to do with security. So whether that's with an international organization or a domestic organization.
But don't become like Prigozhin and start marching on Moscow with his private army.
No, I want to do more just kind of like. I mean, I find one thing I like about international relations is you kind of like there's this constructivist approach which I find myself leaning quite towards. It's like the personality of leaders and stuff, the personality of states can kind of tell you what their plans are and how the relationships work. So that's kind of, my attraction to it. I mean, there's a line in Homeland where he says the security services are the one true measure of, I forget the exact quote, but it's basically the one true way of measuring a state's subconscious.
Okay.
I feel like that resonates with me a lot, and so I kind of, like to work in that field.
Completely. Well, there's measuring the state subconscious, and then there's measuring, with the CIA particularly, all the particularly shady stuff. I believe it was the George Bush Senior used to be the director of the CIA, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And let's not get into some of the stuff that allegedly went on with his time.
Your radio show has now been shut down
in that organization, right? But yeah, so you would So I guess then, are you sort of preparing mentally for the idea of having to live in the UK? Potentially?
Yeah, it's...
I mean, I hate it here. I've been very open about that. It sucks.
Okay.
What about you? What's your, as someone what percentage of your life would you say you've spent living in America?
Oh.
Or at least of your sort of adolescent onwards life?
Probably more than 50, probably in the 50 to 60% range.
Right. So that's most of what you know,
most of my life, yeah. And it's also where, obviously when I was living in the UK or in Africa and all these places, this was before I was even 12.
Yeah. So
it's in the US that I,
grew up.
Became a man or whatever you want to say.
Yeah. So then, one thing I'd be interested in asking you is, so you live in New York.
Yep.
In Washington, D.C.
Yep.
Those are two famous metropoles.
Yep.
Brighton. Not necessarily like when you Google Brighton metro population, which is a trick I learned when I was researching different cities in America, right? Because for example, if you search Atlanta population, you get 520,000, which is bullshit, right? Those are the city limits, right?
Yeah.
And Brighton is another one like Atlanta, like Los Angeles, where the government borders are just so messed up.
Yeah.
But the metro population of Brighton and Hove, right? Because the people of Hove just insist on being included, I guess. Like for some reason they get name billing. You know, it's approximately 600 to 800,000 people.
Okay.
And it's quite sparse.
Yeah, it is quite sparse.
Was trying to live somewhere a little bit more reminiscent of, I'll say home, right? Was trying to live somewhere like that a consideration when you were going to uni? Or how did you choose, especially considering the massive lifestyle change that would be required?
I mean, not really. That's definitely... If you ask me why I went to Newcastle, I had visited and I kind of felt a bit of a kind of New York-y vibe to it. So that was one of the appeals for Newcastle.
That is, I know a guy whose family is from the north. It's a very
kind of
I will be telling him that someone came on my show and said that Newcastle gave him a very New York-y vibe. But
it's just the sheer cityness of it all.
Okay.
To put it like, if you want to put it like that. But why I came to Brighton is it's a bit more... My mum went to Brighton University.
Really?
My godmother went to Sussex University.
Wow.
My best friend in high school, he graduated from Sussex a year before I came. So that was pretty much my draw. I was kind of like, had a bad time in Newcastle, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go somewhere where I know someone like me has had a good time.
Yeah. And I'd say it's one of those cities where one thing that I've enjoyed is sort of stylistically, the university's a little bit more American.
Yeah.
Partially because of the sheer influence of the large North American contingent that we have here.
Yeah, tell me about it.
But also because unlike certain other universities, and it's something that I've obviously, like in London, for example, they tend not to have really a solid campus.
Yeah.
Like I know Imperial has something.
Yeah,
right? They've got sort of a few city blocks that are just them, but even at the same time, it's not really just them. There's still a bunch of other stuff there. I really like that Sussex is just outside of town.
No, I love that. I love that a lot.
I feel like that sort of gives our area a sort of distinct vibe.
For sure. I mean, if you took the campus away, what would be here? A bunch of trees and the downs and stuff, basically. I kind of like that.
You'd have... I mean, well, you have... And then also... It feels like such a distinctly... It feels even more like... Even though I've actually never been, because you have on the other side of the train station most of Brighton University. Obviously, they still have some infrastructure in the city itself.
Yeah.
But the fact that basically unless it's a football match day.
Yeah.
If you're getting off at Falmouth Station, you're there for the universities, and I feel like that sort of gives you that sense of separation.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you would get more in, like, for example, like I hear a lot about, like, you know, in America you've got a college town.
Yeah.
Like, what's the one that the most famous? I think it's the.
I mean, there's a lot.
I was thinking of University of Alabama.
Oh yeah, okay.
What city is that in? Or Georgia's another, like Tuscaloosa, Alabama, which obviously very different to Sussex, right?
Yeah.
Or Athens, Georgia, right, where it's like a college town. But yeah, I enjoy that.
I enjoy it.
I've also enjoyed staying on campus every year. Like, in fact, earlier today I started filling out the form to apply to live on campus again next year.
Yeah.
And they overhauled the form, because last year when I was applying to... The last couple of times when I was applying to come back to campus, it felt very hastily put together, the form.
Yeah.
Like, none of really the stuff that you get on the form when you're first applying was still there.
Yeah.
You just get literally just a section called notes.
Yeah.
And you're just like, for example, if you want to live with someone specific, you just have to go in notes and say, can I pretty please. Compared to now, there's an actual thing where it's like, okay, here is the section, and they tell you exactly how to fill it out.
Yeah.
It's impressive. I mean, but you live in town.
Yeah.
How do you find commuting?
I hate the buses.
So do I.
I hate the buses so much.
And this loops us back to our first conversation. I've just realised I accidentally left a tab open on this computer from the Epstein files. but really, public transportation in Brighton sucks.
It is
so horrendous, and it's an example of a gripe. It's a similar thing to one of the main gripes that I have with the New York City public transportation system is there's one corridor of transit which approximately follows along the eastern end of the rail network.
Yeah.
From Brighton, London Road, Moulsecoomb, Falmer.
Yeah.
Right. Then alongside of that, you have all the buses.
Yeah.
Once you get in town,
yeah,
the network sort of has a couple of central hubs. Obviously, one of them is Churchill Square.
Yep.
Another one, you have that place right outside the train station, but even then, that place is not great to navigate.
Yep.
And then when you're paying £5
extortion
for 24 hours of public transit, and that doesn't even cover the night buses.
It's extortion.
It's really... Look, I'm not... I think this is actually like the 5th week in a row on this show that I've said I'm not a bus guy.
Yeah.
In general, I dislike buses.
Yeah.
They feel slightly less professional than trains, if you get what I mean.
100%.
There isn't the same sort of solidity that I know that there's this... even though, yes, there's a particular circuit that's being run, it's like... I know exactly when I'm going to get to this next place.
Yeah.
Traffic isn't going to be an... I get bus lanes or a thing, right? But traffic isn't going to be an issue. And... in general, the train is going to be a little bit cleaner, and I'm going to have a little bit more space to myself, and it's going to be less frantic to get on or off.
Yeah.
And I'm not having to and it doesn't take ages to embark.
No, the train comes. It comes at a specific time. You get on the train,
and
it goes at a specific time.
And that's the beauty. You just get on the train.
You just get on.
You've paid beforehand.
Yeah.
Compared to on a bus, obviously you can pay beforehand, but you're still having to scan the thing on the bus. And when you're at a particularly, let's say, densely populated bus stop in the centre of town, like for example at the bus stops at the Pavilion, God forbid, right? Suddenly it feels like I'm in an episode of The Walking Dead, and I'm having to navigate through this crowd to get through this one opening.
And when you're on the bus, you're sitting there and you're waiting for people who they haven't got their... I mean, maybe that's just a New York thing of me. Well, I'm prepared, like, growing up, you get on the bus as fast as you can, you get off the bus as fast as you can.
Or like, and it's even worse here, because a lot of the buses in Brighton, they only have one set of doors.
Yeah.
So all the people who are getting off, and it's especially annoying because, you've got the upstairs segments.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll take ages for some moron to realise, oh my god, this is my stop, and he'll start running down, right? But by this point, the horde has already started getting on.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is just delaying everyone further because you're having to stop the process of letting people on, and you have to be like Moses and part the Red Sea to get this guy off, and then you can resume. And then by this point, you're miles behind schedule, and it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate buses. But yeah, how are you finding commuting?
I'm not loving it, to be honest. I'm not loving it. It's just the bus is just so...
Financially, how much is that running you?
Way too much. I don't want to know, frankly. I mean, there's nothing I can really do at this point, because it's the only really kind of way I have to get to school.
Yeah.
But...
You're taking the buses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's $4.60 for a day pass, and...
A Brighton monthly bus pass is £77.
Yeah, it's...
77 divided by 460, as you said you're paying. That is 16.7. So you have to be going in a given month up to campus and back over 16 times.
Yeah.
Which I get, like, that would be 4 times a week. Which I guess, but I guess it depends on your schedule. You'll vary slightly. But then, in a given month, for example, if there's like a hot, for example, in March, our final lecture is on the 20th.
Yeah.
Right? You can't really buy a monthly bus pass for that because you're spending 10 days of the month not having it.
Yeah.
And then we get back to class late April or mid-April, And it's like, well, you can't really buy a bus pass for that month either.
Yeah.
Unless it's not by the month and it's based on when you bought it, in which case I guess you sort of could. But then when we do come back after Easter, we're only back for 3 weeks anyway.
Yeah.
Obviously there's exams, but for people who me and you both have all of our exams online. We can do those from home.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
I've heard some people have like sort of nightmare situations with their exams where like they'll realize like, oh, I have an exam in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, but my exam thing is actually 45 minutes away, so I just straight up can't get that. I knew a guy who just straight up missed an exam last year, which to me is insane.
Yeah, that's...
Because, both of us having done the IB diploma, we're used to a certain level of grind.
Oh, yeah.
And it does feel like university's a lot more relaxed.
Oh, that's one of my biggest issues last year was the sheer lack of stuff I had to do on the daily.
Yeah.
Just played into this, I don't really have to do anything,
I remember my first year, in my first term, I entered this sort of like, I don't want to say depressive lull, but this sort of general state of malaise for quite a bit. Because every week, all of my lectures were on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
Then my 2 seminars were in the morning of Wednesday.
Yeah.
So at noon on Wednesday, I was done for the week.
Yeah.
Which admittedly at first sounds fantastic, right? But firstly, when it's your first time, you don't really realize the possibilities that affords you, right? Like if I had that amount of time now and the amount of money that I had back then, it's like, wow, I'm going on holiday every week.
Yeah.
But back then you don't realize that's a possibility, right?
Yeah.
But it's when you have no guidance. Obviously, you have guidance in terms of, I need to do the readings, I need to do this, but you don't have that on a strictly timed basis.
Yeah.
The same way that you do where I have a lecture on this time, I have a seminar at this time. You find yourself sort of drifting. You forget what day of the week it is. A 4-day weekend every day sounds like a gift, but it's actually a curse.
But it's 100%. I agree.
I mean, what's your scheduling like this term?
I've got basically everything on Monday and Tuesday. I've got 3 classes on the Tuesday, 2 lectures on the Monday, and I've got a couple seminars on the Thursday. 1 seminar on Thursday, 1 seminar on Friday.
One thing that I'm interested to ask about to someone who's commuting. When you went, do you have any particular days where you've got like, because I don't have it anymore, but I used to have certain days where like I'd have something at the 9, and then I'd have something at like 4.
Yeah.
What do you find yourself doing in that period?
I mean, every part of you on days like that says, okay, I want to go home now because I'm not a 9 a.m. person. Let's just put it that way. But recently, obviously, I've been doing my physical therapy.
Yeah.
So I just go to the gym at this point and do physical therapy for hours. Go to the library and stuff like that. Because it's just so much hassle to go all the way back home and all the way back out.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's a 10-minute walk back up to Northfield.
Yeah.
But actually, that's another thing I'm interested. You injured yourself?
Yes.
In the leg, the foot,
torn Achilles.
Torn Achilles. How has that... Obviously, there's a bit of a difference between you and, say, someone who just doesn't have a leg. But how, in the brief period of time in which you found yourself not quite physically disabled, but physically hindered,
yep.
How have you found navigating life?
I mean, so I was in a boot with 5 wedges in the back, so I was basically walking around on tiptoes for about 2 months, and it was straight hell. I couldn't put any weight on my left foot for about 2 weeks. So I pretty much missed like every class last semester. And this campus is not very cripple friendly, let's just say.
I found it interesting considering the sort of reputation that this university has in terms of its, I guess, as we've witnessed recently, I guess, political leanings, right? Not notoriously, but famously very green. Yep. Right? But disability access.
Yeah.
Very distinctly lacking. I mean, it was something to do with the library. You had to take like a 5... What did you have to do with that?
Well, I think they've changed it now. They put a lift in, which...
Oh, yes.
They just did that.
I used that lift once because I was going to somewhere on campus and for some reason the path was just blocked
Yeah.
And I'm not talking like, oh no, there's a bit of dirt here. I'm talking like they literally had fences with zip ties and everything to block you from going this way. And I'm like, So I took that disabled lift. And it was a very odd experience as well, because in order to even get to it, you find yourself winding on this less than a meter wide footpath of sort of garden tiles next to patches of dirt, which could immediately become muddy, considering the weather in this country. It just feels like even that new lift is
the bare minimum.
It's the bare minimum. Well, obviously the bare minimum is, I guess, what they had before, where you have to go all the way through all the arts buildings, which is a hell of a detour, right? You're probably more than quintupling the amount of time that it would take to walk up the stairs, probably more than 10xing the time that it would take to walk up the stairs if you had the rocking music playing in your ears. Yeah. Always helps with a flight of stairs.
Always helps.
But yeah, so how did you find?
It was terrible. I mean, there were times I wanted to go to the library, but when I was in the boot, I couldn't walk up those stairs, and the lift wasn't there yet.
Because that's also sort of the main space that people go to in between
classes,
long stretches of class.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, like you said, you literally had to walk all the way around all the artsy buildings, which are a maze.
Oh, absolutely!
Start there, it's a maze. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't really walk, even when I could put weight on my left foot. I couldn't really walk for longer than like 5 to 10 minutes, and so that just wasn't feasible for me. Yeah,
and you're a particularly active person, right?
Usually,
you're on the lacrosse team.
Yep. Shout out men's lacrosse.
Shout out to lacrosse team, one of the few notable men's sports teams at the university.
Only Prem Division sports team at Sussex.
Oh, I was about to say one of the few notable men's sports teams that wasn't suspended at the start of the year.
This is true.
Despite what I've heard, what some of you guys get up to. But you're a big. Obviously, you don't get to do that here, very infamously, because in Brighton there are no ice rinks. You don't get to play ice hockey, which you're a fan of.
That's what I grew up playing.
But yeah, obviously, how would you describe your sort of mental state, I guess, in those weeks in which you're at the most heightened state of physical disability?
It was bad. Let's just put it that way. It was not a great time. I was struggling quite a bit. I mean, what else can I say? It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
It got to a pretty bad state.
And obviously as well, like, even I imagine going to watch people that do the stuff that you do, that's obviously gonna, even though nobody likes to admit that they're ever jealous, but when you're getting to see the other people do the stuff that you can't,
100%.
And then even specifically at our university, given the geography of the sports area, that must have been hell. How did you even do that?
Luckily our Coach Dave, shout out to Coach Dave, he's great. I mean, he would literally meet me at the bottom of the hill going up to the fields when we had a game, and would drive me up the hill, and then he would drive me back down the hill at the end of the game. So that was, a clutch to have people like him in my corner.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I simply wouldn't have made it up that hill. I still struggle walking up that hill. But at least now it's kind of, you could call it physical therapy if you want, because it's a bit of a workout. So
I mean, hell, I struggle to go up that hill after the slightest bit of rain. That's really steep.
Hate that hill.
It's not, and the fact that there's not, like, as far as I'm aware, that entire sort of northern section. No, it's not northern. The entire elevated section on the eastern end of campus, the sports center, it's not the sports center. It's just the sports complex.
Sports complex, yeah.
And the Freeman Center. I hate that building, the Freeman Center. But those two, there might be one bus stop, but it's sort of awkwardly positioned in a spot where if you're going to use it, no matter where you're going from there, you still end up having to immediately cross the street.
Yeah.
And in that area, the footpaths is always covered in mud.
Yep.
And even then, you're not even all the way up the hill for the sports complex. You're still having to ascend you're probably having to walk another 500 meters.
Yep.
And then to the Freeman Center, another 250, plus a second street crossing to get to the Freeman Center. And then also going up to the sports complex, there's no pavement.
There's no pavement.
It's not
and it's a two-way road, technically, so it's...
Yeah, and it's just not a very good campus to be on. If you're a boot. Yeah. But this is just about, we're approaching the end of the hour. And I am not about to get told off for going over my time slot. Because some people now, they randomly like book, if there's like an open spot on the schedule, they'll just say like, hey, I'm taking it.
Yep, fair enough.
So as we wrap up here, on a high note for once.
On a high note.
Right. Thank you for coming on. It's been
Thanks for having
fantastic episode.
It's been pretty good.
Is there anything that you would like to say to the people? Any people you'd like to shout out? Any things you want to say? Messages to give?
I've made a couple shout outs already. Shout out to the men's lacrosse team.
George Bush doesn't care about black people. You know?
Jesus Christ.
None of this Kanye stuff, right? But yeah, you've already shouted out men's lacrosse. You've already shouted out Coach
Dave.
Yeah.
Sat with me in the hospital for 12 hours while I was there getting my
That's
Achilles
another
done.
thing. Another gripe I have with the UK is the NHS. It's horrible. I once tried to get an appointment. It took me like 10 days just to get a single appointment. And by the time I got
10 days is
and by the time
short.
I got an appointment, it wasn't even with the guy. It was literally like, oh yeah, I can't actually do anything.
Nope.
I don't even know what's going on, but I can basically see if you need to be recommended to someone else.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. I mean, I didn't even see an actual doctor when I tore my Achilles. It was all done online through the virtual fracture clinic.
So the NHS is distinctly not making the shout out list from either of us.
No, 100%.
The NHS. But yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This has been The Deep End, and I will be back here next week I will not be in the studio. I will be doing it online, and I do not fancy having to figure out Discord again, because that went horribly last time.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This has been The Deep End.